Welcome to this special episode of Dreaming Tech 5781 and the joint thing that we do with with Synagogue Tech. And this week we have a special session which we are live with connections with the WUPJ Connections. What is this? This is the session where you can actually ask questions from people who are involved in live streaming, involved in live Zooming, and how they do it. And tonight we've got a special panel, which I'm going to introduce you to. First up, I'd like to introduce you to Rabbi David Paskin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi. Oh, am I supposed to say something?
You are, David.
I'm David Paskin. I am your Torah tech guy at TorahTechGuy.com and a rabbi here in South Florida.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And joining us also is Rabbi Igor Zinkov.
Hello. I am Rabbi Igor Zinkov, and I serve the Liberal Jewish Synagogue in London. Thank you.
Joining our panel as well today is we have Marty.
Hi, Marty Atias here. I'm the host of the Hybrid Ministries Tech Forum from Silver Spring, Maryland, and a longtime audio-video broadcast engineer.
Also on our panel today is we have Andy.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Andy. I'm a sound engineer, and I've been doing sound in theatres and in recording studios and for services for the last 30 years. So, yeah.
And finally, joining us on the panel, but in a different way, because you're not going to be able to see everyone unless I press the buttons, is Rabbi Leah.
Hi, I'm Rabbi Leah Mühlstein. I'm one of the rabbis at the Ark Synagogue in London, one of Leah's rabbis, and I'm the tech rabbi at the synagogue. So you actually get me in situ today. Normally I join these sessions from home, but today from the Bima, from our synagogue, so you can see live in action what we do here. Although Leo did get to control some of the buttons, he doesn't normally get to do.
Yeah, I don't normally actually touch. Well, we'll come on to why I no longer touch the buttons in a minute. But as I said earlier, you can ask questions. There is a link for you to ask questions. So hopefully you can see the Slido come up on now on the screen. So Slido is your ability to enter the questions. We need that spotlighted. Thank you. So Slido is how you enter questions. You go to slido.com, type in DT5781, or you can scan that from your PC and from your phone, and you can look at that from there. But we want to know who you are and where you're joining us from. So you should now see on your screen the ability, if you've done that Slido, to enter a poll of where you're joining us from in the world. So please type in on Slido where you're joining us, and hopefully very slowly the word cloud will build, giving you the information. So just as I said again, all you need to do is just scan that code or go to slido.com and start typing in the where you're joining us from. Okay. While you're doing that, and we'll come back to that in a minute, we've got two really interesting sessions today. The first one is going to be Rabbi Igor Zinkov, who's going to cover how his synagogue has progressed from where it is today, or where it was a year ago, to where it is today. So I'm going to pass over to Igor.
Thank you, Leo. Just before I start the presentation, I only have 10 minutes for it. I just wanted to say that technology has always been something which fascinated me, and I just love. Always loved playing with gadgets. So, and now combining the rabbinic role and the technologies seems like a dream to me. Although a part of me now thinks that I'm losing my hobby, and now my hobby is becoming my work, but not so much so. So I am going to share my screen now so that you can see the presentation, and I'm going to begin with a little introduction of what's the synagogue, how the synagogue looks like. This is the beautiful sanctuary of the LJS, the Liberal Jewish Synagogue, and it is a large building. So for many years, the synagogue had a live stream, but that live stream was very basic. So this is how it used to look. So you can see that the picture was very distorted, and it was very from high up. So if you would watch it, you would feel distant from service leaders, and yeah, not very engaging. And obviously, like many other synagogues, we started to think when the pandemic started, and it was the lockdown started in March last year. So we started to think and experiment of what to do, how to replace it, and then we first tried this one. So on the first day, we tried this device, which is called Mivo camera. This device, I actually think that for small synagogues, it might be the solution still. So it allows you to add a little microphone into it and control the live stream. So, and this is how a service looked when we used a Mivo camera. So I'll just show you a little bit of this example. Much better than it was before. The camera is in front of people. It gets this very wide view as well, and you can control it on the phone. And you can zoom in, zoom out, and
in the spirit of our ancient tradition, which unites and
so you can see that you can hear, because this is the cable which goes to the camera, and here is the little condenser microphone which we put on the beamer. Obviously not aesthetically pleasing, but for the first day it wasn't bad. And then on the second day, on Shabbat morning, I forgot to charge the camera. And guess what? And the live stream stopped, and we couldn't do it. And then we decided, okay, so maybe let's not do temporary solution. Let's work on a permanent solution while we completely moved on Zoom. And for several months we did Zoom. And in order to do so, we had to convert the entire prayer book. We had a PDF of the prayer book into the PowerPoint slides. So we used PowerPoint as it's in a similar way as I'm using them now. And this is how the live stream looked. And the solution, the decision we made in the beginning is that the continuity, not the continuity, that the slides, it is better for slides to look, to have the same layout as the actual prayer book, and also have page numbers. So, of course, it would be much better to have everything typed into the Hebrew and in English. But what I think that some people, if they have a prayer book, the layout would really help them to navigate in the service as well, and also the attachment to the layout. This prayer book has been around for many years, so some people had attachment. And this is from the very first day of the PowerPoint. We used this layout for the Torah reading, Hebrew on the right and the English on the left, and I used my cursor as a yad to see where we are reading. As we progressed, we got more creative. We introduced some of the sections on the PowerPoint as well, and also this fancy yad, which highlighted the entire rather than the cursor. So it's just, and also photographs of the sanctuary. Of course, there are limitations of Zoom and PowerPoint, but still. So what we also introduced is Zoom Kiddush. So what we did in the beginning, and that was a decision that we wouldn't have people on Zoom, but we would have people on the YouTube watching service. But after the service, they would join everybody on Zoom for Kiddush. So that was that was a decision quite early on, and that's and I think it's now pretty much not standard practice, but it's shared by many communities. I can't say that we weren't first, but it is a really good practice, and I think it's. I know that some communities prefer Zoom all the way through, and I also know that some people some people, it prevents some people, it stops some people from joining services because not everybody wants to be in a very in a proximity of others. So some people prefer to have on YouTube or Facebook live stream. So and also we introduced the chat in usage of chat. We had standard messages, and in the beginning we posted them manually on behalf of the synagogue. Shalom from the Liberal Jewish Synagogue. We are delighted to find out more about community. This is our website and phone number, and this is the donate button if you would like to support us. And at the end, we also posted the Zoom link on the chat. The live chat is, and we also posted it at the end. It's really helped some people to join only because we had it. So also we had it on the screen, all the instructions. So, and this is something which we started to do. And then meanwhile, while we're doing the services for a few months, we started to, we did massive upgrade of the technology of equipment. And instead of just one camera, there are just 2 cameras now and 2 projectors as well. Because, and I think that this session will slowly become a fan club of Leo Mindel, because he was really helping us to understand the technology and how it works. And just, I think it's worth saying thank you to Leo for that. So what we have now, we have 2 cameras, 2 yes.
I have a quick question for you on there, just so I can understand. The picture we're seeing in the background on that picture that you're showing us there is your, that's your ark, and then either side on your Jerusalem stone is the projection. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. So what people, it will be clear a bit later, but so it was clear from the beginning that we would like people to be on, so to have a hybrid. What full hybrid means is that we would like for Zoom participants to lead service, to have an opportunity to lead service as well as, and not just be passive observers of the prayer. And it was important during the pandemic, and it is important during the pandemic, but I think it will be important in the future as well. And I think this is one thing which will change for us. So this little camera on the left is a Torah camera. I will show a view and where it's located a bit later. And this little keyboard, it's called Stream Deck, which allows us to operate cameras and views and everything. So it is a special keyboard which can be programmed for whatever you want. So let's say this is how the screen looks for the camera operator who is in the sanctuary, who is able to see what's going on in the synagogue and on the live stream. So this is the Obs Studio. It's a free software for streaming. And this is the Stream Deck, and this is the view which camera operator has. All the gray buttons are different views. Let's say you click on, so again, coming back, there's Zoom opened now, and people have options to watch service on Zoom, and all service leaders, all remote service leaders are also joining on Zoom. So let's say you would like to have, you clicked camera and big slide. So choose, you would like to, for people on the live stream to see camera view and slide with prayers, and camera and big slide and small slide. I will show you how they look a bit later. So you click on camera and big slide, and then you need to tell cameras where to look. Let's say you would like to camera on the lower beamer and big screen. When you click that button, a number of actions is behind that button. I'm not going to stop there, but it tells camera where to look. It waits until the camera is done. It's zoomed in. Then it activates all the sources in a particular scene on OBS, and then it puts it on the live stream. And the last one is OBS also controls the view in the sanctuary, what projectors are showing. So, and it's one button, just a camera operator is a volunteer, is not a professional for us. And that's a key for us. One button did everything. And this is what people saw on the live stream when you clicked lower beamer. So this is a lower beamer and the big screen and a big slide, sorry, and a big slide. This is what exactly people see on the live stream. And this is what people see in the sanctuary. The actual slide is different, but you get a understanding of it. So people in the sanctuary don't see the camera view because they're in the sanctuary. They see the actual person on the beamer. So there's a different view for people in the synagogue from the people on the live stream or Zoom.
So we've got a question that's come in on there, which talks about that exact same point. So I'll just bring it up. You can see it in Slido. So the question that was brought up was from Josie. Will that projection still be there when the congregations come back into the building, Igor?
Yes, there's no doubt about it. And the only question is whether we will come back to using prayer books or not. Possibly
Brilliant.
not, because the entire prayer book is now converted into PowerPoint slides. And it also allows me to just to have a full control of what people have. It has a downside because from my experience in prayer, I know that sometimes I want to read something else. I don't want to follow the service. And when we are too controlling of what happens on the screen, we don't allow people to have their own spiritual journey. But it works for the LGS because the LGS is on the formal side of prayer. It might not work for some other communities. Again, I think what's the important point here is think about your theology. Think about what's important for you. And here I have I prepared slide with different views which are available for camera operator to choose, and we give full control to the volunteer of the live stream. We don't say in this part of the service you have to press this button. The idea is each camera operator brings in his or her own creativity. And I think that we give full controls to everybody. And this is the two cameras. So because we have two cameras, they both can be on and the big slide. Zoom, we can bring on people on Zoom on the live stream as well as prayers. And here is my personal approach. There are two approaches which I articulated quite early on. First one, technology should not lead us in the prayer experience. I think that we should come from our values first and make technology help us rather than technology dictating us what to do. This is the first approach. And the second approach is that prayer experience, in my personal view, should be about prayer and text and not about prayer leaders. And this is why I prefer this slide, these views. So with larger slides, with larger views on prayer, with a clear view, so that people can immerse themselves in a prayer rather than being immersed in the view. So this is the two principles which I personally follow. And of course, during the sermon, it is about service leader. It is about the rabbi or whoever is giving sermon. But during the prayer, it should not be about the person. Okay. So this is the view from a Torah camera.
Igor, we've got a couple of quick questions because we've got to move on onto there. So a question that's come in is, how many volunteers do you have and how easy has it been to train them all?
So the training, what I'm showing now is a little bit behind the scenes and all the technology, which is important, but volunteers don't need to know that. All they need to know is the Stream Deck, is this little keyboard. And if I press this button, this is what happens. And that's it. It takes about 1 hour to train a volunteer. An experienced computer user will get it from 1 hour. And non-experienced computer user will need 2 or 3 times until they get to the point when they're ready. And this is a key. This was also a key for me to organize, to create everything to be run by volunteers and not by professionals. I will try to continue slides quite quickly. And so the Torah Cam is one of the things which I absolutely love. You can see the actual scroll, and I actually able to project this scroll on the walls of the sanctuary as well, which is, I think that people really, really love, both on the live stream and there. So this is the view. I can control the view on the sanctuary, and sometimes it's so nice to see clear wall. Without any slides on it. And this is why a service leader would have a button, I will show you a bit later, to stop slides from showing to the sanctuary. And it just, because it's the sanctuary, so has an aesthetic value and so much thought is put into it. So the Jerusalem stone sometimes should be clear and without slides. This is the setup on the Bima. Each rabbi has, or each service leader has, a tablet to monitor the live stream, to see exactly what people see on the live stream, and another tablet with a mobile version of the Stream Deck, of the same keyboard, but mobile version. But it's especially designed for a service leader. Next slide, because service leader should have the full control of slides. So only I know when I want the page turned, and not the camera operator, who is volunteer, whose Hebrew sometimes isn't that great. So pause slides. This is just pauses for the sanctuary, and also just in case I have all camera views here, but they're hidden in this folder. Also time and date, just in case I forgot time and date. Okay. And this is I think that the climax of all this technology came with the Liberal Judaism's biennial. And I will show you a little piece. And what was the idea of the biennial is that we had service led from 10 different synagogues. Most of them were live, so it was a live stream. Some of them pre-recorded, but most of them were live. I needed to show liturgy. I needed to show some pre-recorded pieces of either prayer leading or music. So it's a combination of pre-recorded music, pre-recorded service leaders, and live. And this is what it was. And also to emphasize the transition, there's a little surprise as well. So this is the transition from one synagogue to another. We just stopped with one synagogue, and this is the transition to Hugely Progressive Synagogue, which is one of the synagogues in London. So I will just to make it a bit easier, I'll just put it a bit forward.
Hugely Progressive Synagogue brings you the Amidah.
This is live. This is all. And and I had control over the views. Sometimes I wanted this view with a larger view of the service leader. Sometimes not. And this is an idea of pre-recorded music. So obviously we can't have live musicians playing at the same time. And the pre-recorded music, well, what I've done is I wouldn't say I've cheated a little bit, but I've prepared the videos in the same format as with the same background as the live stream. So it looks like it is live. It looks like it is, but it's actually pre-recorded. Yes, I don't think it's enough time to show everything in every single detail, but I'm very happy to answer questions, and I think that I've taken a bit more time than I've been given.
Thank you, Igor. You've covered a huge amount of things there, and a number of questions have come in already, which I'm going to try and deal with, because we've got a second session to cover as well, to in there as well. First of all, Jordan Heffman was just commenting on the fact that Dean, who was the person on the guitar, is going to be appearing in his services this weekend. So if you would like to see that, there's more to come. Right, so a couple of quick questions that have come up on here. Oh, and I've gone to the wrong screen. And the main things we covered already. And I wondered if anybody on the panel had got any questions from Igor before we move on. There was a question actually from David Paskin. You had a question about different monitors.
Well, so you sort of answered the question about different monitors. The answer is OBS. So I have a synagogue that wants to send, as you did, one video feed to their Zoomers and a different video feed to their Roomers, and then be able to change that up. And it sounds like OBS. So my follow-up question is, how did you do that in OBS? Where is the setting to send different scenes to different places?
Yes, so on OBS, so it will only be clear, and only people who understand a little bit of OBS will understand it fully. But I can create different scenes on OBS, and I can select different sources. For example, one was a window capture of a PowerPoint presentation, another is a camera view. So, and I can move them and resize them as I want. So I created one scene which is called Sanctuary Projectors or Projectors View, and I added and OBS has a function which is called projector. It's a bit misleading. The projector means that you can open it on full screen and see how the scene looks like. So, and I open this projector view of the scene of the sanctuary, and I put it on a full size, on a full screen, on the projectors. So, and this is how I do it.
But how are you sending a different view to the Zoomers?
It's not. Yes, it's not the. It's only one scene which I put on the projectors. Only one scene, not the.
So there's actually. In a number of them, and to take this forward from OBS, and actually also vMix is much better at it. vMix, you can actually create multiple scenes of different elements that you have. So if you imagine you have a library of elements, one is cameras, one is the liturgy, the other stuff is some videos. You can actually tell it which elements to appear in which order and which place. And OBS does this, and vMix does it incredibly well.
Yes, in OBS it's not natural. It's much more natural in vMix and ProPresenter and other. In OBS it's a little bit. Yeah,
I think this is getting quite deep into a single point, which we can cover, but I think we've got such limited time today, so we're going to move on there. There is I did see one other question, but Leah?
I was just wondering if we could pick up on Ted Labo's question. Leo has just changed our view so that you can see we can put liturgy in the scene as well. But the question about with tech entering the synagogue in such a significant way on Shabbat, how does a progressive Jew who wish to be away from tech on Shabbat find a place? I think for us, that's like one of the reasons why we've decided that we are not going to give up on our prayer books, and that we're not going to project all the liturgy, so that while we will use screens for some things during the service, that it will not be totally dominant to always read off a screen and that's your only thing. But I guess the answer is most progressive Jews, certainly who come to my synagogue, or I'm pretty sure also Igor's synagogue, they're already used to tech, right? We've used microphones for I don't know how long, very, very many years. We do have display boards that are multimedia display boards in the corridor that are not turned off on Shabbat. So I guess there is like a little bit of a balance. So I do still want to make sure that people could just follow in their prayer book. But I think part of it will be about choosing a synagogue. We're very blessed that we are in a neighborhood where people have a choice. and those who don't want to have technology on a Shabbat at all will probably choose to go to a more conservative synagogue.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to now take us on to a little bit of a quick journey about what we did and how the synagogue that I'm sitting in, which is the Ark in Northwood, and how they got to the situation of the technology today. So going back to the beginning, this was what it used to look like. This was the last service in the room when it happened. Maybe if we can go back to when the service was on so you could actually see. So that was the last service in the room in this sanctuary before lockdown, and then we had lockdown. So what did we actually do? This is a quick first setup.
Ooh.
Where you see, this is why I'm not touching the buttons, but Leah is, and she can press the buttons. So this is us walking into the sanctuary. Hopefully you can hear it.
I turned the volume down, sorry.
So as you can see, what we actually did originally is we put in one camera with a screen so that people could see. Okay, so what did that actually look like as the first service? And this is some pictures of the first service. As you can see, we already went straight over to liturgy, and you can see the chat on the right-hand side. Those who will notice, and there was lots and lots, that the social distancing rules and regulations hadn't quite come into effect at the time. And you can see we didn't really follow them as much as we would now, but that was how we started. We then had to take everything out because we had a number of blood donation sessions and put everything back in. So when we put everything back in, I put a video together of us putting it all together. So hopefully this is going to come up. Got to play it, Leah.
1 second, you just need to restart.
So we put in a number of cameras, as you can see. Very nice for the cameras. Not really the best idea when you've got a load of people back into the room under normal conditions. But this is what we needed to do. We put into, we moved the lectern around, the pulpits around, as you can see, and they're actually in the same position as they are now. And then we had some cameras, 3 cameras up there. We actually had a 4th camera, which is the Torah cam, and we had 2 screens there. So what did that look like afterwards? My button pushing isn't doing well today. Okay, so this is an example of a service when it was in place, as you were just seeing. You can see the rabbis are distanced, and if you look behind the logo that was there, you would see that was it was hiding the camera. And the pictures are a bit soft, but this is how it looked at the time. And we went through about 6 months with that until what we then moved over to is we moved over to our setup, which is in place now. So this is all running in vMix. The key differences you'll now see is this is a much sharper picture. You can see that the liturgy is much easier to read. And then we've got multiple camera angles. And if Leah can zoom around a little bit, we should be able to find some bits where we've got 3 or 4 camera angles, or the choir, that you can also see the choir. There should be somewhere coming in. There you go. So this is how the choir looked at the time. And we were able to expand it. So, but we haven't just done this for services. The other big thing that we've done is things like Tot Shabbat, and this is Tot Shabbat. So Tot Shabbat, we're using, because as we said, we've got zoom in cameras, we've got Piantil zoom cameras, and a big area that you use is this. So can you explain, Leah, what happens?
So we always have something in the Ark, and there are always 10 things in the Ark. and the kids are now our internet is struggling, I think, and the kids have to guess what's in the ark. So we would say, have you all got your binoculars? Have you all got your magnifying glasses? Somebody even's got a telescope. So the kids look with their telescopes and magnifying glasses, and I can, with the zooming from the camera, I can zoom in on the ark and the different objects at the same time. So that, I can be their magnifying glass. It's great fun. It's a bit of gimmicky, but it's easy to zoom. I think the one thing that is quite useful to say about our Tot Shabbat. So our Tot Shabbat, we're making the conscious decision that what we stream to the live stream is just our camera feed from the sanctuary, which is the camera feed that the kids get in the Zoom room. So we're trying to keep the kids in a kids-only environment. So if you are watching with children, we invite you into our Zoom room, and we can see all the children on the screen in the Zoom, and they can see us. But what we stream to YouTube and Facebook is only the camera feed. So we can't have the problem that accidentally we've gone into gallery mode and now we've shown all the kids on the live stream, because we're not streaming the Zoom call at all. We're streaming directly from vMix and then just feeding that camera feed into Zoom at the same time. And that works really, really well for us. The kids love it because they can really communicate with us. And at the same time, we're kind of keeping them a little bit safe, and the parents don't have to worry that they're maybe unsavory.
So we can show that still
watching.
happening as Aaron is pulling the hats out. If we can switch over the... I can't cut because you can see it. And you can see they were pulling out hats and hats and hats and hats, and it all relates to whatever was in the Torah that week. So it's a great way to be interactive on the service. So the other thing that we've done, last thing that I was going to show is what you did for Simchat Torah, Leah.
Yes, absolutely. I'll say maybe a little briefly as an introduction. So for Simchat Torah, I felt a bit lost. I was like, how am I going to celebrate dancing with the Torah without having any people in the sanctuary? And then I had the idea that we could use it as an opportunity, rather than having the scroll spread out, opened up in the room, that we would scan through the whole scroll. So we, with our camera, we filmed the entire, scrolling through the entire scroll. My colleague Rabbi Aaron and I together scrolled through the whole scroll, and we made a little video of it. It was a 4-minute and a bit video. It's sped up to 40. You'll get it in 40 seconds. So it's like much faster than what we showed. It was one of the first things that I put out on Dreaming. I think it was 5781 already.
5780 then.
Maybe it was already still.
Well, it would have been, wouldn't it? It would be before Simchat Torah.
It was just in between that time, colleagues from around the world used the video, so it was a great success. It was lovely to share the joy of Torah. So here you get the whole scroll. So here you can see kind of the original speed. It was a bit slower.
Thank you. Loads, isn't it? So we've got some questions that are coming in, and would like to keep on the questions coming, and also from the panel themselves. So the first question we've got here that came in that I saw is not quite related to this, but I'll ask it anyway, is how do you turn the caption on this Zoom session? You may have noticed this Zoom session's got captions on. Marty, how do you turn them on? Because you taught me.
Well, you can go into, let's see, there's a Zoom setting.
I think it's live transcript.
It is live transcript, and if you open that up, there's a setting there for viewing the full transcript or hiding subtitles. So if you have subtitles on where you can see them flash on the screen, you can hide those or you can turn them on if you don't see them.
So we got another question. People outside viewing from Zoom, how do you show them, or how do you only interact by chat? It's a good question. Igor or any of the rabbis here that would like to take that?
So we try not to stream just people who are just coming to attend services, because we try to sort of protect a little bit their privacy. So we try to make sure that only those who have agreed to take active roles in the service will actually be shown. And so actually we ended up deciding that we're not bringing them in on Zoom. We're using vMix. vMix has a call-in feature where you can bring in people directly in vMix and then can bring them into scenes like the one that we are in very easily. You can do that also with vMix and Zoom, but we find that the functionality with vMix Call works quite well for us. And it means that there's only sort of the few people who are taking active roles are interacting with us through real interaction. The rest of the interaction is the chat, and that's for us as the rabbis, certainly at the Ark Synagogue. It's really important that we see the chat messages, because otherwise we feel really lonely in the synagogue. We had one Shabbat service where the restream chat crashed, and we felt completely lonely, as if nobody had shown up to services. So even if people
just taking that forward, though, the way you're doing it is you're doing it bringing people in vMix Call. Igor, how are you bringing people in?
So we use Zoom to bring people in. It means that for just participants, for congregants, we give people choice whether to watch and participate on YouTube or Facebook. It is a more or less passive participation, only using chat and live comments. And we also give our congregants Zoom link. They can join Zoom. We don't show them on the live stream. We don't show them in the sanctuary because we will need to give a permission. But
so I need to just clarify that, Igor. What you're saying, though, is you're not streaming out of Zoom.
We are not streaming out of Zoom. No.
Thank you, because that, I think, is a critical point. That's the critical
point,
out because
of
I know that there's a question here that relates to it, which is coming from Josie, which is, if Zoom is the host speaker mode, you hardly see anyone, but she streams out of Zoom. So Leah, you don't stream out of Zoom. Igor, you don't stream out of Zoom. I've got some other people on here. Yuval, do you stream out of Zoom?
Yeah, we do. We always ask participants if, so basically we only use speaker view and not gallery view.
Okay. But you always have that risk with it that it could come up.
It could, and then we delete the video if necessary, or we crop if it's on the sides and so on. But
David, you had your question, your hand up on this question.
Well, I think that I don't know, maybe it's different to the United States, but everybody who joins a Zoom now, I think, if their camera is on, they are under the assumption that they're being seen, whether it's by the people in that room or because so many Zoom meetings are streamed out. So I worry less about that. I think that one of the questions that people have raised over here is if you have a camera facing the congregation for the people who are in the room, are they comfortable being on screen? And so some of us have talked about, when I was growing up, you had a men's only section, a women's only section, and a mixed section, that maybe you should have a on-camera section and an off-camera section. But I just want to go back to what Rabbi Leah said and share that for me, and I'm not dealing with in-person or hybrid or any of that, I'm just doing digital experiences. The interaction piece, the democratization that Zoom brings is fundamental to the kind of services that I bring and that I offer. So I would suggest that the question about should I be using Zoom, should I be streaming to YouTube, it should all be answered by what's my goal, right? What is my goal? If my goal is to hear lots of voices, to really engage with people on a deep personal level, then streaming to YouTube or Facebook won't cut it. If you have a different goal, then that may be the right route to go.
I think you're absolutely right. And one of the key points here, and there's been a mention here from Cindy Freeman, who said, my congregants love being interactive on Zoom. Is it more problematic in the UK? I don't think it is. I think the issue is that there is a difference between being involved in the Zoom and then what goes out on the live stream. And potentially I feel that the live stream and the Zoom at the moment get blurred, and then you end up with it accidentally showing things that it shouldn't be showing. And that's where the problem is.
We do also have data protection laws that cover ownership of your image. So there is a legal aspect to it, while maybe in Europe we're a bit more sensitive to it.
So for those of you who are watching this and haven't watched this before, we do this every week. We have these sort of discussions every week. Sometimes we go into a lot of detail on some points, sometimes we don't. But sometimes there are some of these really hard issues to unpack that you can't really answer in 30 seconds. Marty.
Yeah, so, we often talk about two fundamental questions about online worship, hybrid worship, and one of them is, are we ministering to two distinct groups of people in the room and people outside the room? And do we want to create some sort of interactive engagement between these two groups of people to bring them together? Do we want to be able give each of the groups of people the ability to acknowledge each other and to feel like, they are all one part of a single congregation, even though they're in different places? And I think David is right that, people on Zoom know that they're being seen if they have their camera on. And there's a difference between a Zoom call, a Zoom conference, which is an interactive engagement, and broadcasting out to YouTube or Facebook. Those are called broadcasts because they are one-way communications. Something like Zoom is a two-way communication. It's a webcast or it's a multicast where people can engage with each other, and there's a fundamental difference in how you choose your platform. Not to say that one is better than the other, but they're different. And
I'm gonna stop you, Igor, because you've got 10 seconds on this one to finish this.
Yes, just one thought that I think that your idea, your ideology, and your approach should come first, and let the technology to reflect it. And don't be restricted or led by technology. Think about what you want and then articulate it by means of technology.
And I think that's a really good point. Just to, I know that I could see David nodding because I know he's covered a number of sessions on this. I want to cover one more technical question that we've had in here before we call it a day, which was Zoom sometimes looks fuzzy. Is there a way to fix this? Leah, do you have a Facebook portal up there? I took the Facebook portal downstairs because I used it for my earlier session at the World Union David
Conference,
Paskin is showing one, so if you can highlight, spotlight David quickly for me. Anybody has one of these?
I got this because of you, Leo. I got the
I should have shares in Facebook portals.
I use it just so that I can bump up my stream. Yeah.
So anybody who has those that you can bump up. The reason my picture with Leah is a little bit soft today, and this is a big reason on Zoom, is when you have, I think we've got 4 connections out to Zoom today, and we have a new internet connection at this synagogue on order, and that will fix that. But it will be a problem when you're going to get everybody back into the sanctuary and people are going to be sitting there pretending they're watching and they're not. And I think, Igor, you've already suffered this a couple of times, haven't you, with people in your sanctuary all watching Zoom even when they shouldn't be?
Yes. And one thing I learned is don't rely on Wi-Fi. Never. When it comes to the live stream, only wired connection. Only. And good wired connection.
So I did ask right at the very beginning where people were joining us from. So I'm just going to put that poll up so you can actually see what we had a number of people said this on Slido. Hopefully we can put that back in on Slido. So that was where people are joining us all around the world. Thank you very much for joining us for this session. As I said, we do a streaming tech every week. It's normally on a Sunday, 8 o'clock UK time, 3 p.m. EDT. And there is a panel that changes all the time. We're here to ask you to ask us questions that we will answer. So it's your questions that we normally answer, and it's your way of, you bring them to us and we will try and find them. Thank you again so much today to the various people involved in the panel, Andy, David, Igor, Marty, Yuval, and Leah, and of course Zander, who's been doing the switching behind, which I can't do. Enjoy the rest of the connections. I know there's loads and loads on. Thank you so much to Rabbi Jordan for what he's been putting on in his team. It's been brilliant. Looking forward to some great sessions. And thank you all for joining us today. Goodbye.